Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for Renaissance Periodization, teaching and modifying weight training technique, video number 6, the last in this series, how to modify ingrained bad techniques. Also, if I add more videos to the series, just look in the appropriate place and hopefully they're there. I shouldn't say things like the last one, but I think at least for now, it's the last one. How to modify ingrained bad techniques. Ingrained bad techniques are when clients are doing very bad version of an exercise and your ability to correct it with just cueing isn't working. And it's often not working because of one of two things. One, this is how they learned to do the exercise, and the way you first learned to do an exercise has a special central stickiness to it. It's very difficult to unlearn bad technique if you learned it first. And or they had another trainer or coach, or they're just doing stuff by themselves. They learned this exercise maybe even quite recently. Maybe they used to do it better, but now they've been doing it wrong. But they've been doing it in this wrong way for some time, quite some time. If you start first and you learn, or if you do something for a long time and you learn, a lot of times that learning tends to be very ingrained, which means that if you just don't cue them like a fucking hawk all the time, they revert back to the bad technique. And especially as the weights get heavier, as they approach failure, as it's time to hit more and more PRs, they revert back to bad technique. Even on warm-ups, they might be able to demonstrate good technique, but then in the lift itself, when a shit gets hard, they go back to the old bullshit they were always doing. This is a very tough situation, but there are at least a six-step way to do your best to try to rectify that situation. And in many instances, this will work very well. Sometimes it'll work a little bit more quickly. Sometimes it'll take more time. Sometimes it doesn't work at all, but those times are few and far between. First, you don't want to be Mr. Mystery about this, or Miss Mystery in your case if you're female. As the coach, as the trainer, you want to bring attention to their bad technique and explain why it's bad. Now, you don't say bad, it's not a moral thing, but you can say, hey, look, you're shooting your hips up at the beginning of the squat, and that's actually taking tension away from your quads. And because we're squatting in order to get you bigger quads, we want to squat through. Does that make sense? And a lot of times they're going to be like, yeah, that does. I know I do it. It's like, I've always been squatting this way. And I know I've watched YouTube videos. I watched the Squat University videos, and it's like, it sucks. And you're like, okay, hey, no worries. Once they know that it's not the great technique, once they know why it's not great technique, they're more likely to be bought in and aware and present about you and them together solving the problem of taking this bad technique and turning it into good technique. Next, you're going to want to think through a little bit of the causes of this bad technique. And there's actually two potential causes at least. One is it's just a motor pattern problem. Like, this is just how they learn to move. There's nothing amiss with their muscles and relative strength. It's just learn how to move like that. Like if someone has a really shitty racket swing in tennis, you're not like, well, it's because your triceps aren't strong when your biceps are. Like, what the fuck? It's a tennis racket. Doesn't require that much strength. You just move it in the wrong way. That's probably 98% of all technique blunders. Another maybe 2% is muscle imbalance is the core problem. For example, if they tend to bowl over and round over in their squat, maybe it's not that their movement pattern is wrong. They know how to squat. They think they're doing a good job. They want to stay upright, but their lower back and their mid back is so weak compared to their legs that as they approach failure, their legs are like, hey, we're still kicking. And their back's like, "Ay," and it starts to die a slow death. And it's just inevitable because of muscle weakness. They can't replicate good technique all the time. So if you've parsed which one is which, you just have to see, is one muscle very much out of balance strength-wise with the others? And is it the limiting factor causing the breakdown? It's not rocket science. You just look at all the joints involved and you're like, all right, what is their strength on the other exercises? Here's an example. If they can deadlift a fuckload with a totally straight back, but on the squats, they round their back, it's not a strength problem in their back. It's just not. But if their deadlift really sucks, even their bent row sucks, and their squats very good, and their leg press is amazing, but as they get higher reps at the squat, their back starts to round. Yeah. Like maybe it's also a motor pattern thing. It's a movement problem, but having a stronger back might make this a lot easier. there are 4 things we can do, a 4-step sequence, which you can run to take that ingrained bad technique and make it all right as rain. Here we go. Point number 3, or point 1 of the fixing thing. 1, stop overloading work on the target exercise that is bad. You will not be able to fix bad technique on the fly. Heart surgeons can fix your heart while it's still beating. I'm not a fucking heart surgeon. I'm not that smart. I can't help. I don't know how to reliably fix someone's technique while they're still training the thing hard. That's like fixing a spaceship in mid-flight. It's perilous. Can you fix a spaceship in mid-flight? Well, yeah, you usually have to because you can't land the motherfucker. But if you could magically have a landing platform with an atmosphere, of course that would be easier to fix a spaceship. You wouldn't have to put on your suit and fly out there. Okay, I'm rigging this. Oh no, my line broke. And then you start the great movie with Gravity with Sandra Bullock. And Scott's video guys that she was in Gravity or whatever. Did you like it? It was a movie.
It was a masterpiece from a graphic CGI perspective.
But you hate CGI.
Yeah.
So you hated it.
It was fine.
It's fine. So that movie gets a Tombs It's rated as by Tombs. All right. So ideally, the way to fix things is to get a stable environment where the thing you're fixing isn't also being pushed in its systemic limits. To put it another way, what you want to do is if you're fixing someone's squat, you want to have them not squat hard while you're fixing their squat technique. Because while they're squatting, I don't mean in the moment, I mean in the mesocycle, in the training plan. No more hard squats, no more squats very heavy, no more squats close to failure, no more squats as working exercises. They're gone. Instead, you're going to train those muscle groups with exercises they don't suck at. Hack squats, leg presses, lunges, etc. Take the place of the squat gets pulled right the fuck out. If there is a muscle imbalance, if the squat was being limited by a weak lower back, this is precisely the time when you start training their lower back competently while they're not squatting hard, so their lower back gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And don't worry, later when we bring the squat back in, it'll be paired with a stronger lower back, and then it's problem solved or well on its way. Next, when you pull the exercise out of working sets, you don't just throw it away because the fuck would that do? You're not working on making it better. You take the exercise and you prescribe technique-only work on the exercise. What is technique work? It's sets of 3 to 5 reps at like 50 reps in reserve. I'm talking about like 50% of your 1 rep max or less. It is exclusively the movement pattern practice. It is the equivalent of broomstick work. Like you take literally a broomstick, put it on your back, you can coach squat technique with just a fucking broomstick. And there would be nothing wrong with that. And maybe you could use like 45 pounds or 95 pounds, or if they're really strong, 225 pounds or something like that. But it's got to be so light that it's never challenging to the muscle and the movement. If they're ever like, ooh, it's too heavy. Because as soon as people go, ooh, they get into athletic performance mode. When they get in athletic performance mode and survival mode, they regress back to their old shitty technique. You have to make sure that from a getting the reps done perspective, the reps are so low, sets of 3 to 5, and the weight is so unchallenging that they just focus on the movement. It's like a tennis racket practicing the forehand. It's not a challenging movement for your muscles. So you can really focus on, am I doing the forehand correctly and the backhand? I used to be a tennis pro back when I was diagnosed with being a compulsive liar. But then I got better. Critical to make sure that this is very easy. Your clients aren't going to like it. They're going to fight you. They're going to be like, I feel good. Can we put some weight on? No. We need to take time to do this right and to do it very easy. In most cases, at least a whole mesocycle, 4 to 8 weeks until you deload, at least. You're doing hack squats and leg presses and everything else, as an example, hard. You're still getting hard training. There are 50 different exercises for a given muscle group. That muscle group can still progress. At the end of the day, you're with your clients to make that muscle group get better. You don't care if it's squats or not, but to fix their squat, to get that good tool back in your arsenal, you want to take it and put it on repair mode. Sets of 3 to 5, why? too few repetitions, it's not enough practice per set. Like if you do 2 reps at a time, you got to do like 50 of those sets to get any kind of learning going. The brain learns on patterns and exposure. But at the same time, if you start doing sets of 10 or something like that, it's so many reps, fatigue sets in, boredom sets in, complacency sets in, and they regress back to their bad technique. So they have to have presence of mind for just short enough of a time to be really focused, but also get enough repetitions so they can really get in their groove. Sets of 3 to 5 reps or so. 5 reps is a really good one. Just, is 6 or 7 fine? Yes, in many cases it is. Is 3 or 4 fine? Yes. 3 to 5 reps is a really good place to get that sort of that balance of both worlds. You can do this as a warm-up before you train legs. Let's say you're not doing squats anymore. You do it as a warm-up. And then you, after a couple sets of 3 to 5 reps, get really good technique practice. You go in and do other stuff, hack squats, leg press, whatever. Or you can do it at the end of a leg session. It doesn't much matter which one it is. If I had to be pressed on it, probably as a warm-up is a little bit better. But if they can do good technique at the end, then that's also really, really good. Because you get better quality, low fatigue practice when you're just warming up, but also you remember and ingrain things better from a nervous system perspective if you do it at the end of a workout. So the two kind of probably balance each other out. What I'm just saying is you do it either before or after the entirety of the workout for that muscle group is occurring. You don't like do hack squats hard, practice squats easy, and then do leg presses hard. That's nonsense. You do either before or after the core work for that muscle group. You train that lift that you want to improve, easy, easy, easy. If needed, and you probably will need them, employ slow eccentrics and pauses to make sure the really good technique is ingrained, trained. Next, once they have demonstrated repeatable, good technique, when you don't say anything, they do it right with light loads, it could take a week or 2, probably longer. It could take a mesocycle or 2. It could take longer. Typically within a meso or 2, you can start to begin overloading work. Usually, you take this exercise and you push it to being the last exercise in that muscle group. If it's quads, you do hack squats first and then the squats that you're trying to fix. Because you're pre-exhausting the core musculature, you're using much less load and you don't have to think about crazy PRs. You're already tired. Who cares? Just focus on technique and do sets of 5 to 10 or whatever it is that's an actual working set. Again, giant sets if needed. So you might want to say, look, I need 30 total squats from you at the end of this hack squat workout for quads. I don't care if it's sets of 5, if it's sets of 6, or if it's sets of 10. Every rep has to be good. And if you screw up 2 reps in a row, the set is over, woosah, relax, cue up again, and then go. Great idea. And of course, continuing with slow eccentrics and pauses is probably a good default thing. You don't have to do it, but because slow eccentrics and pauses are such great tools to enhance technique expression and technique learning, probably good to keep them into. And also, they're fucking brutal from a hypertrophy perspective. At this point, your squats now in this example or whatever lift you're training are last in your workout and they're starting to be very effective again, but the person is doing them with really good technique. However, because they're last in the workout, the loads are much lower. And because you're doing some giant sets, definitely some eccentrics, some pauses, the load is considerably lower. At this point, when they're really good, they've done one entire mesocycle at least of training with the exercise on the back burner at the end. So far, we have 2 mesos. One mesocycle is to do technique only stuff. The other mesocycle is to take that exercise and put it last in the sequence of exercises for that muscle group and train it with a very meticulous style. The third phase and the final phase here is to resume normal training. Now, that means putting the exercise wherever you like. You can put it first, second, or third, wherever in the program it fits. But I would still say, if you have to ask, still keep the slow eccentrics and pauses, at least for a mesocycle or 2, just because they're good to do anyway, and they extra ensure that the client won't go crazy. If you want to go back to purely dynamic movements, totally cool. I'd say a mesocycle of slow eccentrics and pauses is good before you go back, but if you really believe that the client is ingrained and they're back and they're doing a good technique now and they've forgotten the old ways, sure, try it. What I will say, and this is good to communicate to your client, is this: forget the old PRs until they've just surpassed them and you can look back and say, isn't it funny that you used to worry about squatting 200 pounds and now you're squatting 250 with 10 times better technique? They're like, yeah, that is funny. God, I was such an idiot. No worries, we all do it. If they get that whiff of, hey, what was my best squat? 205 for 9? Oh man, we're squatting 200, huh? Why don't we throw 205 on the bar, see if I can get it for 10? Motherfucker, I know what's going to happen. You're going to get to 8. You're going to realize it's going to get hard, and you're going to go back to the same old bullshit technique. Sometimes the old bullshit technique was so bad for hypertrophy, so much cutting your range of motion, so much stripper pulling your squats, that it would take you 2 years or never to get back to the old weights that you used to do. The idea that you get back to your old PRs seems in a client's head as like, I've redeemed myself. I was weaker, but now I'm strong again. You're not getting dipped into the fucking waters of Babylon or some shit. This is not a rebirth. Your old technique was shit. And quite frankly, all the numbers you hit, all the PRs you set are irrelevant. It's a new day. It's a new go. If you somehow with stellar techniques surpass your old numbers, shake hands. It's a great laughing opportunity for you and your client. But the onus on them should just not exist. So the best way to talk to your client about this is when they say, oh man, looks like we're getting back into the weights I used to use. You got to be like, no, totally. But remember, when you used to do this, technique was pretty icky. So I don't know what it counts for. Cause if you let me do icky technique, I can do all kinds of weird numbers in the gym. I can do leg press with 1,000 pounds right now. Does that mean I really leg pressed it? They're like, no, don't worry about that old stuff, man. Look at you. Look how fucking jacked you look nowadays. Look at how beautiful your squat is. Yeah, totally. Don't worry about the old numbers, man. Old numbers are old numbers. New numbers are more effective. They're better. And they're getting everything you want out of the gym safer. Isn't that great? Yeah, it's great. What do you think about the old numbers? It's kind of like, terrible analogy incoming. You guys are probably used to these by now. Old high school flame breaks your heart. And then you spend a good fraction of your life reinventing yourself to become, the thing that she's going to miss. And then you meet another unbelievable girl who blows the other one away, and then you end up married to her or some shit, or long-term dating or something. When you see your old flame again, ideally, you're not trying to flex on her anymore. You're like, oh, hey, Jackie, it's good to see you. Oh, kids, that's great. Awesome. Hey, it was great. It's great seeing you. You're not like, oh yeah, I'm a big shot now. See? And she's like, oh man, I want you back. And you're like, let's do it. And all of a sudden you're making out while both of you are doing the worst technique stiff-legged deadlift anyone's ever seen. Forget about Jackie or Emily or Kelsey or Sharon. I still think about you, Sharon. Every day. Don't worry about that. You're into some new. And if the new is good, it makes the old irrelevant. Something to talk to your clients about is when they used to do bad techniques. That doesn't count as lifting, really. Not something you want to tell them when you start coaching them. Something to laugh about 6 months, a year later. And they'll be in on that joke at that point. Anyway, that's it for now. Go call your exes, but make sure it's desperate. See you guys next time.